Good afternoon, everybody. 1 o'clock, Thursday, March 26th. Going to try and read Chapter 7, Mr. Popper's Penguins today. Dylan right now has his conference call with his classroom, his first grade classroom. So there might be some background noise, as there usually is in this house right now. So he's having his conference. My wife is on a video conference right now. So there's lots of going on at the DeSantis house today. It is a nice day. It looks like it's nice and sunny out. My kids were out a little bit. I think it's in the 50s right now. Hopefully it gets into the 60s with more sun. And I plan on going outside after I eat lunch and check in on some of your writing. So remember, today you only had read a book 15 to 30 minutes. Do your writing summary like you always do. Write your 4 to 5 sentence paragraph. Someone wanted but so then for fiction, nonfiction, main idea, and supporting details. And then your writing. So your writing lesson today had a lot of stuff on it. It had your questions, your 5 questions. It had your resources to use to answer those 5 questions. It had a model of my research, and it also had a video using Screencastify. I made a quick 5-minute video on how to write your introduction and your title page. And that was it. That's all you had to do today for ELA. Giving you kind of a little break today. Want everybody to get caught up tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow is a catch-up day or make-up day. If you're all caught up and you're good, guess what? You got the whole day to do whatever you want to do. So that's awesome. That's another reason, I think a lot of you are staying on course and doing what you're supposed to do, and that's great. Some days are more crazy than others, and I get it. I've been talking to Mrs. Colonna off and on. Want to make sure we don't give you too much work, but think about it. You're doing 4 hours of work in school every day. I know there's different circumstances, and I know, it's different being at home, but you have 90 minutes of ELA, 90 minutes of math. That's 3 hours of work right there. And in science or social studies, that's 30 minutes. So that's 3.5 hours. And then you do some work in enrichment. So you get close to 4 hours of work in school every day. So we want you to continue to learn. We want you to continue to do what you need to do to get ready for 4th grade. So that's our goal from now until the end of the year, is to spiral back on all those standards, keep you writing, keep you reading, and making sure that you're ready for 4th grade. So with that said, hopefully I've been checking some of your research papers, and you're doing a good job. Make sure you write it in your grade 3 writing folder. I can't stress that enough. If you just open up a Google Doc and don't have it in your grade 3 writing folder, I cannot see it, because that folder, your Google Drive isn't shared with me, but your grade 3 writing folder is shared with me. So I can conference with you, I can write you comments, I can help you fix the things that you need to fix and let you know if you did it correctly. So if you did not write your introduction and title page today in your grade 3 writing folder, and you just did it on a Google Doc, you're going to have to move it. And I think on my other video, I showed you how to do that. You have to click File and then Move. And then you need to move your animal research paper into your grade 3 writing folder so I can see it. All right. Other than that, I don't have much to say. Everybody is doing a great job. Tomorrow I will check in at 8:30. I'll make a little video saying good morning and reminding you that it's going to be a makeup day. Maybe you're behind in your iReady lessons, or maybe you didn't do a social studies lesson here or there. Make sure that you go back in your checklists and make sure that you're covered everything. I am not going to seek you out and say, you need to do this, you need to do that. If you don't have it done, it's an incomplete. So make sure you check your checklists every day from last week to this week. All of your lessons are nicely organized now in your classwork tab of your Google Classroom page. So make sure that you're able to find all of your assignments, fill out your checklist, survey, reflection sheet, at the end of the day so that you know that you have done everything you're supposed to do. Don't check it off if you didn't do it. And in that way, that reminds you that you need to go back to the assignments. But for the most part, I've been checking your summaries every single day. I've been returning them, and for the most part, everybody's doing a good job with that. The daily edit yesterday, some of you didn't do it correctly. I wanted you to rewrite the entire paragraph. So next time that we have that as a direction, I want you to make sure that you're rewriting the entire paragraph over, not just giving me the words that are misspelled or telling me what's wrong with the paragraph. I want you to rewrite the entire paragraph the right way using your Google, using the Google form. All right, so Mr. Popper's Penguins. So yesterday we did chapter 6, and we learned that the police found out that Mr. Popper had a penguin in his house. The chapter was called More Troubles, and basically the police didn't really have a problem with him keeping the penguin. Captain Cook is the penguin's name, into the house. There was no laws or rules against having a penguin in your house. Mr. Popper tried to get a hold of City Hall and to see if what he needed to do to register Captain Cook, and they really didn't understand his problem. So I guess all is good. He can keep Captain Cook in his house. His neighbors think he's a little interesting for having a pet penguin in his house, but for the most part, his family seems like they're enjoying Mr. Popper being in the house. Chapter 7 is called Captain Cook Builds a Nest. So let's see what Captain Cook gets himself into in this chapter. Very reluctantly, Janie and Bill had to leave Captain Cook and go to school. Mrs. Popper was busy in the kitchen, rather belatedly, doing the breakfast dishes, and while she dimly realized that the penguin was going in and out of the refrigerator quite frequently, she thought nothing of it at first. Meanwhile, Mr. Popper had abandoned his telephoning and was now busy shaving and making himself neat in honor of being the owner of such a splendid bird as Captain Cook. But the penguin, though thus neglected for the moment, was by no means idle. This is where I would ask you what the word idle means. So maybe using my context clues, it says, but the penguin, though thus neglected for the moment, was by no means idle. So maybe I'm using some of my clues and I see the word but. Sometimes that brings up an antonym strategy in my head. And I think, well, maybe that means the opposite of not doing anything. So maybe idle means doing nothing, but it says by no means being idle. So maybe idle does mean doing nothing. Kind of think of an idle car. Sometimes you see signs and it says no idling in front of Wawa or some other places. That means that you can't keep your car just running and not doing anything. You have to keep, you have to either turn off your car. You cannot let it keep running. So that means idle. Idling means just to keep it. By no means idle means not staying placed in one spot. With the unusual excitement and having to go to the market earlier than usual, Mrs. Popper had not yet got around to straightening the house. She was an excellent housekeeper. Still, with 2 children like Janie and Bill, and a husband with such untidy ways, there is no denying the fact that she had to pick up the place rather frequently. Kind of like what I do right now in my house. Captain Cook was now attending to the picking up. Into the corners of every room he prowled and poked and pecked with a busy thoroughness. Into every closet he stared with his white circled eyes. Under and behind all the furniture, he crowded his plump figure with little subdued cries of curiosity, surprise, and pleasure. And each time he found what he seemed to be looking for, he picked it up in the black end of his red beak and carried it waddlingly proud on his wide pink feet into the kitchen and into the icebox. At last, it occurred to Mrs. Popper to wonder why on earth the busy bird was up to, or what on earth was the busy bird up to. When she looked, she could only scream to Mr. Popper to come quickly and see what Captain Cook had done now. Mr. Popper himself, looking rather remarkable, as Mrs. Popper noticed later, joined her in staring with astonishment into the refrigerator. Captain Cook came up, too, and helped them look. Ork, ork, he said with triumph. Mrs. Popper laughed, and Mr. Popper gasped as they saw the results of Captain Cook's trips through the house. Wonder what Captain Cook is doing. 2 spools of thread, 1 white chess bishop, and 6 parts of a jigsaw puzzle, a teaspoon and a closed box of safety matches, a radish, 2 pennies, a nickel, and a golf ball, 2 pencil stubs, 1 bent playing card, and a small ashtray, 5 hairpins, an olive, 2 dominoes, and a sock, a nail file, 4 buttons of various sizes, a telephone slug, 7 marbles, and a tiny doll's chair, 5 checker pieces, a bit of graham cracker, a Parcheesi cup and an eraser, a door key, a button hook, and a crumpled piece of tinfoil, half of every old lemon, the head of a china doll, Mr. Popper's pipe, goodness, and a ginger ale cap, an ink bottle cork, 2 screws, and a belt buckle, 6 beads from a child's necklace, 5 building blocks, a darning egg, I don't know what that is, a bone, a small harmonica, and a partly consumed lollipop, 2 toothpaste lids, and a small red notebook. That's a messy house.
Sure is.
I guess this is what you call the rookery, said Mr. Popper.
Oh, the rookery.
Only he couldn't find any stones to build his nest with. So what is a rookery, do you think, Mommy?
Well, I happen to know what a rookery is.
So what do you think Captain Cook is doing? He's nesting. He's building a nest. Okay. Only he couldn't find any stones to build his nest with. If you didn't know what the word rookery is, the author gave you a clue at the end of the sentence and an example. Only he couldn't find any stones to build his nest with. So maybe a rookery means nest. Well, said Mrs. Popper, those penguins may have heathen ways at the South Pole, but I declare I think this one is going to be quite a help around the house. Ork, said Captain Cook, and strutting into the living room, he knocked over the best lamp. I think, Papa, said Mrs. Popper, that you had better take Captain Cook outside for a little exercise. Good gracious, but you're all dressed up. Why, you almost look like a penguin yourself. Mr. Popper had smoothed down his hair and shaved off his whiskers. Never again would Mrs. Popper have to reproach him for looking as wild as a lion. He had put on a white shirt with a white tie and a white flannel trousers, and a pair of bright tan oxblood shoes. I have oxblood shoes. He had got out of their cedar chest his old black evening tailcoat that he had been married in and brushed it carefully and put it on too. He did indeed look like a penguin. He turned and strutted like one for Mrs. Popper, but he did not forget his duty to Captain Cook. Can I have a few yards of clothesline, please, Mama? Asked Mr. Popper. And that is the end of chapter 7. Okay, so we learned that Captain Cook took all the things that were lying around in the house and he built his own rookery. And we said that rookery means nest. Trying to use our context clues to figure that out. And now Mr. Popper is going to try and get some exercise in for Captain Cook. The next chapter, chapter 8, is called Penguin's Promenade. And we'll kind of figure out what's going to happen next after that. Promenade. If you think of a promenade, I think some examples down in Sea Isle City, the boardwalk is called the promenade. So maybe that's a place where people walk. That's what I'm guessing. So maybe it's called Penguin's Promenade. Maybe he goes outside and takes a walk. I don't know. That's my prediction of what might happen in chapter 8. All right. Again, I want you just to focus on your writing today. Just make sure that you have your title page and your introduction finished. And then you're finished for the day. Mr. Colonna's class, make sure you go to Newsella. I've had a few people not know how to get on the Newsella. We've had a lesson yesterday on Newsella for map skills and globes, and then today on volcanoes. If it asks you to log in, you don't need a code. Just log in with your Google, and you should go into the Newsella page, and you should have your assignments waiting for you for social studies for the last 2 days. Remember, tomorrow is a makeup day. No new assignments. I'll post a message at 8:30. Probably will not do Mr. Poppers tomorrow at 1 o'clock because I think we have a PLC meeting with our teachers tomorrow, and we're going to learn some new stuff to give you next week. Hopefully, my guess is it'll be a little bit less iReady and maybe some more different kinds of lessons and different kind of platforms to teach you guys instead of me just giving you busy work. And that's not really what it has been. I think we've done a really good job the last 2 weeks of actually giving you some things that you can learn new skills or relearn the skills that have been taught to you this year. And I'm trying to create new lessons for you. And, I think next week it'll be a little bit less iReady intensive. You'll still probably do it, but not as many minutes maybe, so that we can provide you some other lessons using Screencastify or Zoom or YouTube or Pear Deck or Nearpod. There's lots of things that we're just learning as teachers on how to use. So hopefully we get some guidance on that tomorrow, and we'll be able to create new lessons for you next week as well. So I hope everybody's doing well. Definitely do miss you guys. I would give anything to go back. I mean, I do enjoy this a little bit, being home, but honestly, I like being at school a little bit better. I do enjoy my family. Oh, what, you put makeup on this morning, so now you want to be in my videos?
I didn't put that much makeup on.
I do enjoy being home with my family. I think you have to look at the positives on all this and make sure that you're enjoying the time home with your family, because, we've had this conversation actually this year that your teachers spend more time with you than your family does during the school year, because we see you 8 hours a day, where your family might only see you 4 hours a day, and then you're sleeping. Now it's kind of reversed. Now we don't see you as much, and now your family sees you more. So that is looking at a positive, and hopefully you're able to get outside today and get some fresh air, and hopefully we hear some good news. I think hopefully we're taking a turn, and I'm positively optimistic that we will be back at some point soon, but probably not, obviously next week. So we'll see. My guess is that we will probably obviously have all of next week and probably the following week going into spring break. And then spring break, you won't have any lessons, which is awesome. So you'll have some time to kind of take a break. And then we'll see when we come back from spring break where we're going to be at that point. I'm hoping everything gets back to normal and we're back in school. All right, if you have any questions for me, make sure you contact me through Google Classroom or have your parents dojo message me. And hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.